Some of you might know me personally, most of you probably don't, however, and if you do, then me you've known is not who I am today. I used to gauge how good my work or others' works was by the amount of people who received it and interacted with it, simply because of the nature of the digital world. People are reduced to numbers, and numbers are infinite, so the more the better, right? Recently, however, I've come to realise that each number is a real person in most cases, and if you were to bring these people into a room together, 10, for example, is quite a crowd. So this is for each and every one of you watching and listening. Don't be fooled like I was by the idea that numbers are important. It's the person behind the number that's important. In December of 2019, my life pulled 180 on me in the most radical way. And I'm not talking about anything to do with what's going on at the moment. This lockdown has just come at an appropriate time for me to have your attention and share this little story of mine. It's going to come as a surprise to most of you, I imagine, and I'll be covering a fair bit in this, so no doubt you'll learn something about me that you never knew. My childhood was really quite great, being blessed to have a well-strung family unit, an older brother to take the brunt of the world and a younger sister to keep me soft enough to love, a nurturing mum and a dad who's provided since day one. We've grown up in the countryside amongst nature, between family, relatives and everything you could ask for in raising a young family, yearly holidays and all that good stuff. By no means have we been without our struggles, emotionally, mentally, financially, and everything that we've all no doubt experienced in some regard. I'm no longer the type of person to regret personal choices or passively blame others for their decisions, even if it affected me. I'm curious what it would have been like to grow up in different circumstances, but that's neither here nor there. I can only be grateful that I was raised in a household the way I was, and that just so happened to be outside of religion or indoctrination, or so I thought. In short, we've been raised to make our own choices based on our own experiences and research, and although this was typically limited to what we could see or touch or measure, we've always had a sense of right and wrong, good and bad, light and dark, but never anything absolute or objectively so to measure against. As humans, most of us are raised to act with our greatest efforts and hope for the best, and we can look at the world and see how well that's going, I used to believe I was a really good person. I acted righteously, so I thought. Selflessly, I hoped, with the love I guessed. Without pride, and I couldn't have been more wrong. The truth of the matter is that I only did so when I felt like I could, because we all have good and bad days, right? It's about the age of 16 when life started throwing tough questions at me. Where to go, what to do, who to be, and so on. What I felt like I could do started shrinking and collapsing on itself. I started to become self-righteous, selfish, fearful, full of pride, all of which were taught by this modern world. It isn't natural to behave that way. At that age, we only really have each other to measure the teachings against, and when every sheep is running to the gate, you just join in, right? So blindly I continued, and something was always itching in my mind. I became overwhelmed by my experiences pretty quickly and became a lot of everything and everyone else, leaving nothing of me and myself to live out. I bolted and flew to Australia at 18. I was met with compliments and appreciation from older peers for being so far away from home when really I wasn't sure what home was or how it felt anymore. Everything had turned paradoxical in my life. Around this time I sunk my lungs into cannabis and everything it had to offer. A year later I was smoking tobacco so I could get sanctioned breaks at work when it got busy. Incredibly consumed by what's going on in my environment, borderline paralysed by my internal dialogue and overactive mind, and a gradually hardening heart, I started seeking more than we're taught about. I was already a social prior and figured life wouldn't be too much different if I continued heading astray. I'd already twigged that feelings aren't tangible, so by proxy, there was a whole realm of life that was unexplained to me. Truth became the most important thing. I committed to seek truth no matter where it would take me, and you'd call me crazy if you knew what I've since come to know. I learned that faith is a tool that we're all born with, and that it is our choice where we place it and how we grow it. I was jaded by the idea that faith was exclusively attached to religion. I came to learn that the same faith a man places in God I was placing in men in lab coats, and I wasn't even getting the answers I needed. The tighter I gripped onto life and what I thought I knew, the more precarious the path became. When the world teaches you one thing and yet your experiences teach you the opposite, what do you trust? My mental health was spiraling fast and life was a painful game of survival. Anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, name it, I was living it. I was in an incredibly disheartening place where the real question was, is this psychosis or a spiritual awakening? The strain of it all was overbearing on my family and we've all suffered because of it. I was one family argument away from police or doctor intervention. Somehow we knew that the route of pharmaceutical medication or institutionalization was a one-way street that I would pay the cost of my life for. Stoned for the last 7 years, daily cigarettes for the last 6, riddled with mental ailments, skipping meals and truly living the life of a starving artist. I was dropping weight as if it was a personal goal of mine, and it wasn't. You know when you're too close to something that you can't see it for what it is? Yeah, that. Cannabis kept me alive but never allowed me to thrive. Meditation cleared my mind out to the point of nihilism. I began to experience undiagnosable symptoms of chronic pain, and one night my body was physically seasoned to the point of paralysis, as if I was possessed and needed exorcism, and I did. I was a hollow shell by the time I could hear God knocking on my door. You can imagine that it wasn't hard for me to submit all my life to him in that moment. Overnight my health was restored. It took 2 weeks for me to realise that I hadn't smoked a cigarette since that evening. I was convinced that I was a victim to hereditary biological illnesses, and yet every single mental ailment vanished. No anxiety, no depression, no suicidal thoughts, all gone. In a single moment, one decision. Did I deserve this? No. Did I get to decide what decisions God makes? Absolutely not. Was it the best decision of my life? Most definitely. 4 months on, life only gets better by the day. Every morning God wakes me up when he pleases, somewhere between 6 and 8 a.m. All day I commune with him. Those thoughts of yours, yeah, they're powerful. And do you identify as them? You shouldn't. Not until you're able to use them according to God's will, that is. I ask God to bring people into my life who need him, and every day he does exactly that. I wake up deeply, deeply fulfilled even during this mindless time of fear, and I can tell you that this is the best way to start your day no matter who you are and what you're involved in. My career has exploded since, my relations are deepened by the day, my health improves without sight of stopping, my knowledge expands daily, and I'm granted wisdom and revelations by the hour. All because I realised that my way of living led me to an inch of death, and that wasn't a good place to be in. So in turn, putting my faith in God and to fulfill the path he laid out for me, I was born. Nowadays, you'll hear me talk about Jesus most of the day, and when you don't hear me talking, believe that I'm still communing with him silently. The Bible explains everything that I went through, and I had never once opened a book with the intent of learning from it until now. It is single-handedly the most practical book you could ever read in your life. I spent enough hours reading imaginary thoughts from too many authors' minds, and nothing has come close to the wisdom that the Bible imparts. It's a manual to live in life. If you haven't read it yet, take my advice. And testament simply means covenant or agreement, so don't trip on the Old Testament and how life used to be under the agreement between God and men, who are long dead by now. The New Testament is the current law of God that we live under. Follow the teachings of Jesus and you'll never fail. And we read in Matthew 22, Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and all thy mind, as the first commandment. And the second is like unto it. You shall love thy neighbour as thyself. It's not hard to see that if we lived these 2 commandments, the world would not be where it is today. Don't be deceived by religion. Begin your relationship with God today. He's been waiting. He loves you more than anything in this realm. He is the creator of everything, and chances are that you've never known that you needed him. Peace be with you. God bless.